So we're going to do an introduction to single-handing today on my 11,000 pound Cape Dory 28, which is a 1981. I think the actual weight of this boat with nothing in it is around 9,000 pounds, but I've got, you know, maybe 800 pounds of water in here and also just thousands of pounds of gear. So I think that our total sort of weight is in the 11 to 12,000 pound range. We're also going to go over preparation. So, you know, how do you set the boat up to be single-handed? That's running rigging, also how it's docked, the gear involved, what are we wearing, what are the safety systems we're using, and to make sure that, you know, we don't go overboard or something like this. And then the funnest part, we're gonna practice docking the boat with one person and leaving the dock with one person, which is always interesting, but I find it's a lot less scary than people think it is, and especially if you know what to do. Then we're gonna go out and demonstrate how we do this on a heavier wind day. So we've got about 15 to 17 knots in the forecast, which would be a pretty good day to demonstrate, you know, how we single-hand in heavier weather with a medium-sized boat like this. It's not really a big boat, but it is a medium-sized boat, I'd say. You also want to make sure that your engine is warmed up prior to this, because you might need to gun it, especially in these conditions. It's blowing like 15 right now. If you can hear the whistling rigging all around us in the marina, that is because it's pretty windy. And also just start to prep your gear. This is my safety tether that I use. The other thing that we want to do before we leave the dock is prepare the sails to be raised as much as possible. So what I'm doing right now, this is the reefing line right here. I will probably start this sail with at least one reef in it, just because it's going to blow 15, and it's also, the forecast is higher than that in an hour or two. So reef early, reef often. The next thing we are going to do is attach the halyard to the sail. So right now it's here. I'm actually going to go ahead and connect this to the mainsail, so we're ready to go when we get out there. You know, one of the features I really like about this boat is this halyard, this is the rope that raises the sail. This goes back to the cabin, so I can actually raise the mainsail from the cabin and not have to walk onto the bow, which when you're single-handed can be very dangerous. And I don't have lifelines that would keep me on the boat in the case that I fell off and, you know, the bow was moving a lot. So how do I store that? I stick it in this little cleat right here, just to keep it kind of taut, ready to go. Once we're out on the water, I can raise this from the cockpit. Just opened up the sail cover all the way, good to go. You also want to get your winch handles ready to go. So I've got two here. This one, green one, I typically use this for the halyard winch, which is this one right here. And then I'll use this one on the jib sheet winches, left and right. Okay, so now we are going to prep to leave the dock. So first thing over here, make sure that, you know, your rudder is unobstructed, because we're gonna have to run back here and, you know, quickly maneuver it, potentially, depending on how the wind is blowing us. I've got the autopilot set up. I will talk through that a little bit more once we're out on the water, but just have it, you know, plugged in, ready to go, working. Also, the engine is on and warmed up, as I previously discussed. It's only going to be me on here, so I've removed all the normal lines. Normally there's a line on the starboard side that connects to that piling. There's also a corresponding line on the stern starboard side, which connects to that piling. I've removed both of those, so we just have two lines. One here on the port stern side, and one here on the port bow. So, you know, depending on which way the wind is blowing when we want to go off the dock, I'm going to take these lines off in sequence, very simply, just two lines, and float back. So the wind is coming from this way, so that most likely means that we will be removing this line first. So this one holds us in the slip at the top. The stern will probably blow a little bit this way. We just have to be prepared for that. And then we remove the front line and we cast off. The other thing we're gonna do is make sure no boats are leaving right now. Looks like we're good. Like I said before, we're gonna remove this line first. Once I remove this line, we've really started a timer. So as soon as I let go of this, you know, the boat's gonna start drifting, the stern will start drifting. So it's important that we have a plan as to how we're gonna back out of the slip and you know, drive forward after that before we let go of this line, because you can't re-grab this line without kind of messing up your flow. And as I said before, see how the boats drift? I took this off, see the boats drifting back? That was what I thought was going to happen. The front line up there is still holding us in place exactly as I thought, but we are drifting away from this dock, which is something we're gonna have to deal with. So I'm gonna pull this in a little bit close. I'm gonna let go of this, and then I'm gonna run to the front of the bow and remove that line. So here we go. Big gust, right as I got up. All right. So pull this in close. I'm gonna cast this off. Now we are free of the dock. So the first thing I wanna do is put this into reverse and start to reverse out of the slip before the wind starts to blow us where it wants. Remember, when the boat is going in reverse, the tiller works in reverse. So you have to keep that in mind. Basically, the boat goes to where you're pointing the tiller shaft. In this case, we want to reverse with the stern kind of turning to the starboard side. And you can see this is basically going perfectly right now. We're turning out in the right direction. That's the direction we want to go. We're not going to hit that dock right there, the end of the dock, which is always something you don't want to do. And then we're going to kick it into forward, switch the direction of the rudder, and give it a little thrust. So now we're turning, we're in forward gear. The water is switching directions over the rudder. So now it's going in reverse direction as when we were backing out. So the water's coming over the rudder this way. To turn this way, we need to turn it like this, which causes the water to push the boat right to port to starboard. This boat is called Laminar Flow. That's an awesome boat name. The next thing I'm going to do here is engage the autopilot. So what this does is holds a magnetic course. There's a magnetic compass inside here, and it just pushes the tiller in and out to maintain a perfect straight line automatically with where I point the tiller. So this is very essential for, in a couple minutes, when we raise the mainsail, we're going to point the boat directly into the wind and motor directly into the wind, so the sails are depowered. When you're going directly into the wind, the sails have no power. Very critical sailing lesson there. But this does an excellent job of doing that, and without this, you have to hold the tiller in the same direction, because if you don't have something that's holding the tiller down where it's pointing, the boat's going to start steering itself all over the place. The autopilot is steering us beautifully through the channel. You love to see it. Probably the most game-changing piece of equipment I bought, honestly, between my Catalina 27 and this boat. I haven't gotten more utility out of an item than the autopilot. So let's talk safety equipment. What do you need to be able to safely single-hand in bigger winds like this? At a bare minimum, you need 3 things. 1, a life vest. This is one of these fancy ones that inflates. It's got like a CO2 cartridge in here that when it detects water, there's a bobbin that dissolves and it inflates it immediately. So it's a pretty safe life vest. And also I test these periodically, like once a year. That's number 1. Number 2, you want a lifeline. So see this tether here? I can pull this over. What this does, it clips into these D-rings right here and keeps me in the boat, because the other side of it is locked in right there. That thing is got 4 stainless screws into the hull, into pure fiberglass. That thing is going nowhere, but basically, if I fall off the boat, this will catch me. And 3, you need a portable VHF radio. So this floats, and you can put it on your life vest. So if you fall in the water for whatever reason and this lifeline fails, you can still call for help if you need to do that. I usually don't carry this. I keep it in the cockpit, but you know, if there's ever bigger seas, I would recommend, you know, keeping it on your person. And always do that if the water is cold. Right now the water is like 80 degrees. I'm not going too far offshore. I could honestly swim this with a life vest that's inflated. No big deal. Now we're gonna go ahead and clip in and actually raise the sails. That's really important single-handing is organization. So I'm going to take that halyard for the mainsail, wrap it up, store it over the winch, and make sure it's really out of the way. Now the mainsail is raised and we're preparing to do a port tack down this channel. Unfortunately, the wind is blowing straight up the channel, but fortunately that gives us a chance to practice some tacking maneuvers and how we would do that single-handed. Next thing we're going to do here is loosen this line, which controls the roller furling at the front of the boat. The roller furling keeps that sail closed, so we're going to roll a little bit of that out to match this sail, just so we can get a tack going and get some speed to go down this channel. One of the really cool things about the roller furling and the way that this boat is configured with the main sail halyard back to the cockpit is that I can raise and lower all of the sails from the cockpit without having to go forward. So I'm going to pull out a little bit of jib right now to the starboard side of the boat. And with that, we're sailing. So, why would anyone want a single hand? I've got a couple reasons why. One, I just sail way more often. So this marina is 45 minutes from the front door of my house. I can sort of shoot over here on a Saturday morning without having to recruit anyone else to come with me to sail with, and I can take the boat out with really high confidence. Number two, I would say that I get to sail a lot more aggressively when it's just me on the boat. I know that sounds scary, but again, we went through our safety systems here, right? I'm clipped into the boat. This is safe. But if, I'm bringing people out, we're eating lunch, maybe there's someone on the boat who is likely to get seasick or something like that. We typically don't sail the boat as hard, or, a lot of people get afraid, a lot of people get scared of the heeling, etc. So we get to sail a lot harder, and I get to do a lot more practicing when I'm alone out here, just without a second objective. It's just me and the boat, sailing. Number three, this is really when you develop confidence in your boat and yourself. I remember very clearly the first day that I single-handed the Catalina, my old Catalina 27, the first boat that I had, bathtub jib. I was scared to do it. I took a leap of faith on sort of a low wind day. I would definitely recommend starting on a low wind day where you're a little bit less afraid, and also less stuff can go wrong. Wind can really make your day go wrong if it's big. So I definitely wouldn't recommend starting out on a day like today where it's 15, 17 knots. But ever since that day, it sort of opens that door and you can go out alone on your boat. And like I said, that's really how you get to know a boat, when you're focusing on just yourself, the waves, the water, the wind, how the boat is interacting with all those elements, and sort of what happens. Autopilot's doing a great job of driving the boat, keeping our course. Promoted to second mate. Sort of playing chicken with this boat. I want to do a tack, and I don't think I'd be in their line. I'd probably go behind them, but we're kind of close to each other. Now we're going to jibe, single-handed jibe. There we go. Look at that. Beautiful. Safety first. Very nice conditions. I thought it was going to be actually quite a bit windier than it ended up being here. So my sailing / single-handing history is really short. I bought my first boat, I think 2 years ago in May, so I'm really only 26 months into sailing total. It was a Catalina 27. I had never sailed before. I watched a bunch of YouTube videos, read a couple textbooks, the Annapolis Book of Seamanship. I can, recommend which ones I liked there, but some really good stuff there. I got the basics down. I bought this boat from a guy in Annapolis, the Catalina 27. I sailed it down with him to here in Harrington Bay, Deal, Maryland. And I think I took it out 2 or 3 times with either my dad or a friend who knew the basics of sailing, but we were kind of winging it, to be honest. We were a lot of motoring, a lot of raising the main and not understanding the correct sequence of events, a lot of learning curve there. I was afraid of the jib. I didn't understand the roller furling system. And ever since I started single-handing, I started sailing way more, like I was saying before. So yeah, you can do it. Don't be afraid of it. I find that once you get over your fear of taking, you know, a boat out alone and being like the last line of defense to a catastrophic event or a chaotic event, you know, that's certainly still possible. But if you take the right safety precautions, I don't think it's a pretty remote possibility. The more you're on the water, the more confident you're going to become, and the better sailor you will be. Because I think the biggest, outside of skill and understanding, the biggest factor is just time on the water. So now we're going to put the sails away and motor back into the dock. So remember I said it was easy to take the main down from the cockpit, so we're going to do that right now, and I'll show you how easy it is with the halyard running back to here. So we are entering the channel here, and my recommendation for this moment is everything needs to be put away and ready. So see the cockpit, very clean, the lines are out of the way, kind of roped up. The bow is clean. I don't know if you can see this, but I'll walk up there, even though this is not recommended. The bow is clean, look at that. I can run up there, and if there's going to be some kind of problem, I can intercept it and make a move. Yeah, very important to have your boat clean, ready to go as we're approaching the dock single-handed. Also, make sure you have your line grabber extended there. So the next thing you want to do is figure out which way the wind is coming from. So slow down a lot. I mean, you don't want to go 0 miles. You want a little bit of speed so that there's water flow over the rudder, so the rudder actually can move the boat, maneuver the boat into the slip. But you also want to be going slow enough that you understand which way the wind is actually blowing. You're going to have to calculate where you should put the boat given the wind is blowing in that direction so that you can end up where you want to be. So here's our dock E right here in front of us. So we're going to come around here to the side. I've just got sort of just the boat in gear. We're going pretty slow, or the motor's on pretty low RPMs, maybe like a tiny bit of throttle. But, you know, the point here is just to generate some forward momentum. We're not trying to rush into the slip, and there is quite a bit of wind. I would say there's 12 knots, 10 to 12 right now. Yeah, here we go. We're going to turn in just right about now and probably cut the motor even further just so I get a sense of, you know, what's our coasting speed. The other thing to look for is like, hey, is there a boat coming out? I usually give preference to the boat coming out. All right, just at idle now. We're probably traveling 1.5 knots, I would say. Which is perfect. So the wind is coming left to right. I can feel it here. I don't know if you can see the flags or any of this stuff on video, but the wind is blowing strongly left to right, which is going to push us out of the slip, which means we have to go into the slip with enough force that we can still turn the boat and we make it all the way into the slip, because the worst thing would be you don't get into the slip and you get blown into these boats on the right here. I am not too worried about it, however. So I think the game plan is to swing wide. We'll stay sort of on this side. I know it looks like we're on the left side, but kind of on the right side. Go in with a little bit of oomph, and I'm going to grab try to, if I can, set this line first on the port stern cleat, just because that'll stop us from moving forward. And I'll grab the port bow line with this boat hook there, and that will set us up. There's our slip right there. Just feathering the right side here. You don't want to go too close because remember, we're getting blown sideways. So one common mistake I used to make, it's amazing how late you can turn and still make it in. That's our slip right there, right next to that Beneteau. I'm going to start turning like right about now. You'll see how fast we can actually turn. You also want to be aggressive with this angle because we're battling the wind. Remember, it's coming left to right, so now it's pushing it wants to push the bow out of the slip. So we have to overcome that with the tiller. All right, we got good speed. I'm going to put this in neutral. We're in neutral. Okay, just about in the center here. Look at that turn. Okay, next I want to grab this line, pull us in a little closer. We're a little far from that. I am gonna grab, remember I said this would stop us if I put this on the stern cleat, so I'm gonna do exactly that. Pull this in, pull this up, and then attach that here, and it should stop us, and then run up here with my hook and grab this line. Got it. See, as we expected, the wind's blowing us out of the slip. We overcame that with a good, chunk of speed coming into the docking process. We got our line. I have these perfectly sized such that we just kind of slip them on the cleat right here, and we're good to go. That's how you dock a boat single-handed. So I hope you enjoyed that little single-handing session, and I'll see you later.